Hello, how you doing? It's just me today. I am here alone on the gathering room. What kind of gathering is that? Nobody here. Well, Ro is off screen because she is feeling poorly. Not pearly like pearly gates, but poorly. She is feeling poorly today. And that's why we got the topic we've got to work on today. But I'm not going to talk about that until many more people have arrived. Hello, Denise and Marianne. Hello, Anne-Marie. You are a top fan. Hello, Anne-Karine. Oh my gosh, always coming in from Lilyhammer. Alexa, good to see you, honey. Cindy and everybody, Lynette. Yes, I will announce it more detail. Oh yeah, I miss you too, Alexa. I'm reading the things myself. Isn't that, I'm so brave. I don't know what to do without Rowie here, but we're getting by. We're getting by in the neighborhood. Yes, what to do when you can't do anything at all. Last week, I was on a plane. Couldn't do anything at all to connect with you guys. I miss you all so much. And then this week, Ro got sick. So we've been on for a few minutes. I don't know. I just don't even know how to communicate without Ro here. I guess we could just start. Do I have to hit record or anything? No, I don't have to do anything. So, you know how some days you just wake up dead? Like you wake up and you think, now I must go out and rule the day. And nothing happens, like you hit the gas and nothing happens. I used to think, I read one book a long time ago that said that it called it adrenal fatigue. Now that term is out of date, but I'll never forget the time that this happened. I was performing in Chicago, and I was talking to this large group of, I don't know, maybe 400 or 500 people outside, big, like pep rally. Everybody was super cheery. Everybody's jumping and hopping. It was awesome. And I got up and I managed to give this speech. I don't remember what I said. I don't even remember if I managed to form complete sentences, but it was such a happy, enthusiastic crowd that they just went bananas when I was done. And I remember here's this crowd of people who are being so gracious and so vivacious and so alive. And I was looking at them and I felt nothing. I was like, flat beer, nothing was happening in there. And I remember going off the stage, go, and all the people behind stage running up to hug me. And I was like, hug, go. And I couldn't feel anything. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't muster anything. And I went back to my hotel. And then right before I got to the hotel, you guys, this happens. Does this happen to you? Bookstores, suck you inside and then throw you a certain book at you. I don't even know if there are bookstores anymore, but maybe it happens online. It happens to me when I'm shopping for books online. Certain books that I've never heard of are like, come read. So that's what happened. It was like I had no energy to do anything, nothing. I was just trying to get to my hotel room. And this tractor beam fastened on my body and pulled me into a bookstore. And then it took me to the very back of the bookstore. And I thought, why am I going? I was being frog marched almost. I almost couldn't move my own body. It was just, and yet I was going way to the back of the bookstore. And I ended up looking down at a shelf. You usually look at eye level, right? I looked right down at this shelf and it said, there was a book that said, Tired of Being Tired. And I was like, whoa. The universe is speaking to me. Because this was at the end of what I call the book tour that never ended. When I wrote Expecting Adam, which was my first memoir, 20 years ago. And it did really well. And people read the book, which was lovely. But then it got out among any group of people, because the book is about my son with Down syndrome, and any group of people who had anything to do with any kind of disability at all, sort of somehow found out that I was available as a speaker. And so I would just traipse around. I didn't get paid, but I literally went to every state in the union for like 8 months. I was traveling, and wow, I was very tired. And this Chicago trip where I gave the speech and got a bunch of people cheering for me was at the end of that. So I was tired beyond tired. And I don't know, there was a lot in this book, and I've read a lot since, about how you can rouse yourself when something exciting happens, and then you can be very, very highly active for a while. Here's the thing. When you're on Instagram or you're on Facebook or any of the other social media, you see a lot of people in that state. High, happy, energetic, doing things, hanging out with each other, bright lights, fancy things, great food, and everybody's life looks fantastic. Commercials are even worse. Any ad shows you someone in a truly manic state. And I can tell you also from doing reality TV like the Oprah show, wow. I remember one time being asked to paint a wall with a woman. I was helping her redo her life by redoing a room in her house. And it was on the Oprah show. And Oprah wasn't there. It was just a bunch of producers and directors and camera people. The two of us painted one patch of wall repeatedly for like 4 hours or something. We were so tired, and they kept saying, more energy, until we were like shrieking with laughter and like slapping paint all over. Oh, and I'm sure it looked very fun. And I literally, when the take was over, I literally just lay down on the floor and couldn't move. We have a tendency in our society to glamorize, and I do mean like Western culture, which is I'm always ragging on. It's weird culture, Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and developed, okay? Those are the cultures where nobody takes a noontime nap and where even the cities never sleep. And we really emphasize continuous high-level activity and progress. So we get a lot of that on social media now because that's what the culture wants us to present. So getting high and happy is considered to be the ideal, but not just at these peak moments. So you may have heard me talk about how you don't want to have extreme fear all the time. So a lot of us, if a bear attacks you, you're going to have a spike of adrenaline. You'll get out of you climb a tree. The bear will climb after you and eat you because bears can climb trees. But you will have a spike of adrenaline. But if you're lying in bed at night worrying about the stock market or something, the bear is running after you and there's nowhere you can go. So you get this high adrenaline response, and it goes on and it burns your system. Same thing happens when you try to be high and happy all the time. So when you burn through enough adrenaline, the adrenal glands can't keep producing enough. And it's not just adrenaline, it's serotonin, it's dopamine, it's all these hormones that make you feel good that the brain produces as a sort of slow and steady drip. So instead of the slow and steady drip, what you do is you should open the floodgates. Like when people take ecstasy, the drug itself doesn't make you happy. What it does is it opens the floodgates of all the serotonin and all the dopamine you've got going, and it floods the brain and it floods the whole nervous system. And then you get really super happy for a few hours. But then what happens after any big push is that there's nothing left. There's just literally nothing that the brain or the body can call on. And then it starts bringing in other parts of the body, like the thyroid gland. When adrenaline is gone, the thyroid gland will kick into gear and produce more of its chemicals, trying to give you enough energy to do things. Eventually, your thyroid gland will blow out as well. I have so many friends who have had thyroid cancer after living a life in the public eye where they were trying to be high energy all the time. And fortunately, they're all okay because thyroid cancer is not the worst of the cancers, but I've watched it enough to see a really correlation between people who try to do things all the time and people who end up overtaxing their whole glandular system. So today, Ro was super sick, and she was like, I got to pull it together. And I was like, no, this is not a day when you can really do anything. So she said, well, what do you do on a day when you can't do anything? So I have my list because I've been sick and tired of being sick and tired a lot of my life. So here are my little points, and then I'm going to take your questions. The first thing is never underestimate the power of going limp. I am not kidding you. If you, like some people lie down and they're like, I will nap, power nap. Urgh. If you have any tension in your body at all, you are working a little harder than you can work when you've got nothing left to give. So right now, I hope you have something left to give. I hope you're not exhausted. But right now, see if you can like slump or lie down wherever you happen to be. If you're watching me on your phone or your computer or whatever, like whatever position you're in, go into the absolute most relaxed posture you can. Generally, you will look dejected and tired because that's how our culture reads it. We don't read it as relaxed. We read it as depressed. And people who are depressed get there, but it's a different variable. Just because you slump doesn't mean you're depressed. Sometimes you slump because, here's point 2. Think of doing absolutely nothing as gathering strength. So I used to have days when I could work and days when I could only gather strength. And this is how you gather strength. You lie down. So I hope you're all lying completely limp. Now, what I want you to do is from your head down, I want you to send like a warm wash, kind of like if you're going through a car wash. Imagine you're going through a car wash and it's very gentle and there are all those little rotating brushes. And as it touches you, every single muscle lets go. So let go of your facial muscles. Don't try to smile. Let yourself see if you can let your neck go more than you've ever let your neck go. See if you can like let go of your shoulders. Now let go of your shoulders some more. Now let go of your shoulders again. Go to your hands. Let go of your hands. Let go of your hands some more. Like let the warm relaxation brush keep going up and down your body. And every time it does, imagine those muscles letting go, letting go, letting go. At first, you might actually have a fear response to this because part of our psychology is to believe, especially if we've had trauma, and I know a lot of us here have, to believe that only by staying alert can we keep ourselves safe. That's not true. If you keep yourself alert all the time, you burn out and then you can't function at all. So don't think of it as going inert. Think of it as gathering strength. So once you get really, really limp and you've redefined this position, don't be afraid. This is where strength comes from. This is actually a position of strength. The ability to let go entirely of muscle tension, of emotional tension, of physical tension is a huge strength. So you're lying there gathering strength. And then what I want you to do is direct lots of loving kindness toward the part of you that is the will to move. So it wants to move. And instead you say, it's okay. You don't have to do anything right now. Relax, 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 relax. And you keep saying that. And if it says, but I'm bad, you say, no, honey, you've got to relax. So treat it almost like a child. So I used to have what I called minimum days. There were my performance days, my minimum days. My minimum days, so let's take the worst of times. I had 3 little kids. I had a lot of autoimmune diseases. I was dealing with a lot of psychological trauma. I was alone quite often because my then husband traveled a lot. And I was trying to get my doctorate and teach as an assistant professor. So I was jammed up. And so I would, on a minimum day, every single second I had to spare, I would go immediately into this slump. I was gathering just the tiniest molecules of strength I could find. And I knew that only by being completely, absolutely at rest and by giving myself compassion was I gathering these little drams of strength. Then I would do the absolute bare minimum to keep my children basically okay. I mean, God love them. They have been so kind to me through the years because I was not a hands-on mother during those days. Basically, we would play something I called Wild Kingdom, where I would lie on my bed, completely inert, and they would play around me. And my daughter's teeth marks are on the corners of all the books I used to read because she would pick them up. My youngest daughter, she'd pick up a book like this and chew on it like that when she was teething. And I would just look at her and be like, go for it. I don't have the strength to help you or the book. And you know what? The books are great. They're keepsakes. And she worked out okay. I would crawl to the kitchen, get them like frozen waffles or something. I mean, it's terrible. It's terrible. I didn't live a good life during those days. I did not get organic whole foods for my kids. I did not entertain them with puppets, a la The Sound of Music. It was a bare minimum day. And if the people around you understand that you have minimum days and they know that that's the best you can do, and that as soon as you can, you will be a different person, you can actually enlist their help. So my kids, God love them again, they all got to know what it was for mom to have a minimum day. And they knew that I loved them. And then they knew that I was doing what I could. And they have always held that knowledge and they've never held it against me. And now sometimes they have minimum days and they're able to give themselves that permission, I hope, because they saw me doing it when I needed it. So I hope that you can give yourself permission to do very little because it's flu season and some of you are feeling kind of rotten, especially anybody who's been exposed to the coronavirus. I hope that's none of us. So I thought I would take a few questions now because Ro is lying helplessly in the bed, but she is also sending me texts with your questions. Before we start, I wanted to show you this. Please do not anything. Stop! Please do not anything. That's what you do on days when you can't do anything. So as for your questions, let me see if I can get the questions Ro has sent. So Marie Scala says, I remember you speaking, oh, I can do this too. I remember you speaking about intentional reading. Is this something you would recommend for the whole body during times like this? Intentional resting. Oh yeah, I need even better glasses. Yeah, you know what? Intentional resting may be too hard. Intentional resting is about resting for someone else. And it's a really interesting, an interesting idea that was taught to me by a man who worked with mules. And he used to do this for his mules. And it consists of holding someone in your attention and then saying, I am resting for you. I'm resting for you. And actually, I'm really grateful you brought that up because when someone you love is having a minimum day, why not try resting for them? Because when this man sat and said, I'm going to rest for you now, whoa, I think I felt something. So, and I remember the last time I talked to him, he said, I think I'm getting to the point where I could rest for an entire city. I don't know, but I have to go lie down and try. So intentional resting is a wonderful thing to do for others when you have the energy. But I'm telling you, on a day when you can't do anything, you can't do anything. All right, Alexa says, Martha, I can sometimes relax my mind, but my body is the hardest to relax because of trauma. Sometimes it happens automatically where I'm contracting. I'm in the process of healing from this. Is there any helpful way to remind myself that some days when I have no energy? This is a really common trauma reaction. And I think it's why I had the 3 autoimmune diseases. I was so contracted. I actually felt it last week when I was in California. I was doing a 3-day seminar, and after the second day, I lay down and I was holding a lot of stress because I was worried about getting to enough people the next day. It was our last day. And it was almost like I was in rigor mortis. I lay down and I was in quite a bit of pain too. My back was really hurting me. My hands were hurting. And I could tell by the rigidity that this was part of my old pattern. So trauma leaves the body rigid. What you want to do with that, Alexa, if you can, is start with a very, very small part of the body. Like I said, do a whole body scan. That's kind of too much if you've got trauma contracting. So what I would do if I were you is start with your hands. I used to not be able to use my hands because they hurt too much. And I found that if I could flood them with compassion, with my own compassion, and let them do nothing, it kind of, because your hands are the business end of your body, they're the ones that do the things that help you, and they would kind of, They're doing it right now. They go into a limp position, and then I can actually feel this sort of warmth coming up my arms. And then I start on my toes. So I start from my extremities and work inward instead of from the head down. And that works for me because I can do little bits. If you come to a place that is too rigid, I wish I had you here to coach, because here's what I do. See if you can do it for yourself. If there's a part of you that's very rigid, address it directly and give it a name. So say Alexa is feeling a lot of rigidity up and down her spine. So if you picture that part of yourself, any part that's rigid, give it a name. And let's say it calls itself, I don't know, Spider Woman. Okay. So Spider Woman has a tense spine. Ask the part of you that's holding tension if it would mind stepping to one side for a short interval. Okay. And sometimes it'll say, no, I will not step aside. And then you say, that's okay. You don't have to step aside. I'm glad you're there. I know you're doing your best and you're serving an important function for my body, because those trauma locked places are always guarded physically and emotionally by tension. So you know that if there's tension in the body or in the mind, if there's a rigidity in the mood or the body, underneath that somewhere is the part that was traumatized. And it's interesting because part of getting into relationship with the tension and the rigidity is to get it to move aside so that you can directly address the part that actually underwent the trauma. As long as you're just dealing with the stress and the tension, you're actually, that tension is protecting the part of you that is most damaged. But if you try to push the protector away, the protector gets stronger and clamps down harder. I tried to do that. Going limp this way and then giving it compassion, compassion, compassion. Sometimes you can say, I'm in a safe room. Nobody's going to come in. Would you mind stepping to one side for a minute? And sometimes the tension will say, okay. And then as it steps aside, you breathe and you say, who am I without that? Who am I without the stress and tension? Those of you who know the Byron Katie work are familiar with the line, who am I without my story? This is who am I without my trauma? And you can't always get right to it. Sometimes you can't get to it for years. But if it can step aside, then you'll notice that there's the part under you that actually went through the stress or the abuse or whatever it was. And then you can offer direct compassion to the part that was underneath. Very often we get exhausted from holding that tension over minor traumas or major traumas that build up. And so that's why we get just plain exhausted, because we're always, I talked about the cultural norm of being high and happy, but there's also the trauma reaction of staying tensed and protected. So getting that to relax by hook or by crook, and then giving kindness to the part that is helpless within you. That's the scariest thing. Did you know people who've gone through horrible trauma, had people firing guns at them and things, or even have been beaten, may have less trauma if they were free to respond than someone who just had really scary, like dental work and was unable to move. Because the biggest trauma we have comes not actually from the pain, which comes and goes, but from the feeling of helplessness. And that feeling of helplessness is extraordinarily traumatizing. So when you can go limp, there's the fear that you're helpless. But if you can say, but I'm going to direct compassion to you and I've created a safe place, then as you gather strength, it goes in not just to the outskirts of the body, but into the central trauma. And you can give comfort and calm to the traumatized self. And creating a safe space to do that is often a really good outcome of being tired. So I think I was tired and exhausted a lot because my body wanted me to lie down, relax the trauma, and address the traumatized part at the center. So Alexa, that's a great question, and I'm very glad you asked it. All right, so who says this? Diana says, how in the world do you prevent people from being disappointed in you when you have to cancel or can't follow through? Oh, Rose going through this today. She's like, I'm so sorry I'm not there. And I'm like, the peoples will understand. But you can't always do what people want, and some people will not be understanding. And the answer to Diana's question is you absolutely cannot control their reaction. So, speaking of Byron Katie, she says there are 3 kinds of business in the world: my business, your business, and God's business. Whether or not I have the flu today is basically God's business. I can wash my hands all I want. Sometimes it's airborne, and I get sick when I get sick. All right, that's really not my business. How I care for my body when I have the flu is my business. What you think about me caring for my body is your business, not my business. So what Katie says is stay out of other people's business, because if you're in their mind checking to see how they feel about you, there's no one home to take care of you. So it's harsh when people are upset that you have to cancel. You are not in control of their thinking, and it's not your business. So come to the gathering room and you will find it full of friends who understand. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. No control over others. Stephen says, what if we feel we're stuck in the inertia of these low energy days when we have obligations we're ignoring or neglecting and we shouldn't anymore? Oh my God, Stephen, I'm really glad you asked that too, because I had a string of these. I had months of these days, months. I would be either minimum day or just above minimum. I mean, barely above minimum. And the reason was I was in the wrong life. And very often, I don't think it's a coincidence that this question came from a guy, because men, even more than women, are like cemented into lives that they feel they can't get out of. And bad men don't care. They just run around doing what they want. But really good men will take on the role of provider and also their job title. Like the reason we have so many names like Baker, Taylor, Fletcher, those are all job titles. Fletcher's made arrows. And a lot of men take their whole identity from the job that they're doing. And if that job is not right for your true inner self, it's going to make you drained of energy, physically ill, physically sick, and even traumatized. It can build up as a genuine trauma. So I wanted to save this for right at the end, but here's the thing. I want to assure everyone out there that even if you've had many, many, many days when you can't do anything, if you start paying attention to what gives you a little bit of strength, those gathering strength moments, if you notice that, like looking at one picture gives you a little bit of a lift and looking at another one drags you down a little, you start to measure by microns the amount of strength you have left. And I just had to turn, because I had so many minimum days, I had to turn toward whatever made me happier. And one thing I learned was that reading self-help books and reading novels and reading memoir brightened me. Deciding to write a memoir or a novel brightened me. It gave me a little bit more strength. Every time I went to my job at the university, I was so weak sometimes that I couldn't, and my hands didn't work, and I couldn't get out of the car because I couldn't open the car door. And I had such bad brain fog, I couldn't even remember how a car door gets opened. And I was 30. I was not an old woman. And what I learned was that my particular body will not allow me to live the wrong life. And I have done, literally, my career has no particular description to it. It is literally what I could do. And it was the only thing I could do. I was not given any latitude, any possibility of doing something different. I had the strength for what took me right to my destiny. I had the strength to do things like come here and talk to you and say, if you have no energy, if you're depressed, if you're traumatized, if you're sick today, it's fine. When we get to the end of our lives, we'll look back and see how much compassion and how much experience we gained. And that's all that matters. The things that culture wants you to do, they don't matter. What other people think of you doing what you want to do, they don't matter. What you do is turn over and over and over again to the things that give you strength. And little by little, those minimum days start to be less and less. And the days when you have strength become more and more. And the 3 diseases I was diagnosed with that aren't curable don't give me symptoms on most days anymore. I have way more energy in my late 50s than I did in my early 30s. Life can get better and better and better. So lie down, totally relax, and feast your mind on that. I love you. Ro loves you. We'll be back next week, same bat time. I hope you're all feeling really, really rested by that time. Love you guys. See you next week.